have this vivid memory of sitting in the bathtub one time and just crying.
I think I punched my dad once.
You're not in charge of me right now. Like, you just won't leave me alone.
I had an epidural in my back, so I couldn't move very well.
She just wanted me to keep pushing and keep going.
Everybody had one. Like, if you didn't have one, you were looked down upon.
This is a show where teenagers share their experiences growing up in today's world. I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and this is A Teen's Perspective. Hello, and welcome to A Teen's Perspective. I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and today I have a great guest for you. He's a minor, so we do want to hide his identity. So I'm going to ask you to come up with a name for us. Now, I want you to choose a name if you were a superhero. Which name would you want?
Oh, Mr. Man.
Mr. Man?
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Well, let's welcome Mr. Man to the show. All right. So let's start off and just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your family dynamic, siblings and how you were raised.
I was born in lived up there for about a year and a half, moved down to I've lived here for the last 13 years, about almost. And I got one sister who's going to be a senior this year. I've got a dog, and I love my parents a lot.
So for you to mention that you love your parents a lot as a teenager, share with me what type of relationship they've cultivated over the years with you.
I would say, sometimes there's some trust issues, natural lying capabilities of a kid like me. I would say that over the years, we keep on just getting more trustworthy with each other and just trying to build a relationship over just knowing what we can do together and just trying to spend time. I know right now for me, I'm getting a lot more busy and stuff. And so I'm not really spending as much time with them, but that's something I'm trying to work on right now. Just trying to spend more time with them. So
it sounds like in your household that you guys are making an active effort to spend time together.
Yeah.
When did you guys start to do that?
Well, we've always been a game family. So we'd always play board games, card games, just as a fun thing. And then I would say a couple of years ago, that kind of dropped off. My sister was getting into high school. I was getting into middle school. Sports, everything just all came in at one spot. And so we kind of just stopped doing that stuff. But then we started, I would say probably 2 years ago, we started getting back together because we weren't even doing that many family dinners at the time. We wouldn't even all be sitting at the same table eating dinner together. And so we all just wanted to kind of give that back. But it was just really hard to do that because I was swimming and my practice would either end at 8 or 9:30, and my family was eating at 5 to 6, somewhere around there. So especially for me, it was really hard to be able to get together and be with them because I had school for 7:30 to 4:30. And then immediately almost after that, I would go either to a band thing, then swimming, or just to swimming. And it was just really hard because I had to kind of just stay away from them, and not on purpose, but it was just a sport thing. And so I wasn't really able to spend as much time as I really wanted to. And it was kind of hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's kind of cool that you guys do the board games and, make sure that you're eating dinner together. So the first opening statement, you mentioned the word trust. So share with us a time where you lied to your parents and you got caught.
Oh, which one to choose? Oh, well, there's been a couple incidents with the ice cream, or the chocolate cake on a birthday or something, but just oh, don't eat this. And then my sister and I might go grab a tiny little piece of something or something like that. I would also say there's the electronic thing. Oh, do this stuff before you get on electronics. And then you kind of skip out on that and then do mess around and you're oh, I totally forgot. Yeah. And just play it off.
So it hasn't been anything major?
Nothing too bad.
Okay. And what is their reaction when they catch you in a lie?
It varies. It's kind of how bad did you lie kind of thing. If it's just oh, you didn't take out the trash, then oh yeah, just take out the trash real fast. But if it's you did this specific thing that we said not to do, and then we kind of just have an argument over the day. I mean, it all works out in the end. I mean, we get back together, days go on.
All right. So you are going into which grade?
9th.
All right. So high school, this is a big transition for you.
Yeah.
So talk to us about your experience with this whole COVID-19 transitioning to high school where you're not allowed to go to school.
Well, I can't really say much now, especially since school hasn't actually started yet. But I could tell you, like, whenever I was in 8th grade and the COVID started and stuff, it was really difficult for me because I need like immediate access because I ask a lot of questions. And so if I don't understand something and I can't ask a question immediately about it, I'll either forget about it or just not know what I'm doing. So for me, it's kind of difficult because I don't have that immediate access or like relationship with a teacher or just someone who can give me the information I need. But that was when like we weren't doing like face-to-face Zooms live. So I feel like this year, since we have actual class periods on Zoom, it's not just like a one-on-one thing you can like schedule. I feel like that might be a little bit better. But I would say that with all this COVID stuff going on, it's freed me up a lot. So especially doing like summer stuff, it's been a little bit easier on that. Just being able to be more active because I'm not doing other things.
You know, I know here in Texas, you guys will do homeschooling for 3 weeks and then they give you the option.
Yeah, something like that.
And what decision did you guys make? You're going to go back to school or stay homeschooling?
As much as I would like to go back to school, I feel like virtual is a better option just because I don't think that we're going to actually go back sometime in September. I personally feel like it's going to be a little bit longer than that, especially with numbers going up so much right now. But all I can do is just wait, really, see what happens. But I would like to go back to in person if I could, because I get a lot of my social interactions by like talking to people at school and stuff.
This also is difficult on the parents, right? So what is your parent dynamic as far as how they're going to help you guys homeschool while they have to work as well?
For our family, it's kind of easier because a couple of years ago, my dad got the okay to work from home. So we kind of made him a little office. It's actually right next to me. Yeah, he has his little office and he's able to take breaks and kind of just talk for every couple of hours and stuff, especially on his lunch break. We'll like sometimes go get lunch together or something like that. My mom just hired as like a teacher because she knew that they need like teachers and stuff because a lot of teachers are like backing out because they don't feel safe during all the COVID stuff, like in person, or they just can't handle like virtual. But I would say that they're having like enough time to be able to fit us in. And worst case scenario, we can either do it in the morning before my dad and my mom start working or in the afternoon where we can just troubleshoot together. So I would say that they have a pretty equal and stable time to keep us factored into their lives.
It sounds like it's a pretty straightforward transition for you guys.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Dr. RJ. I hope you are enjoying the show. I just want to encourage you to hang around after the interview. I will be coaching my guest on whichever topic they choose. Life coaching has been proven to increase success and happiness in teenagers. So if you're interested in having a life coach for your teenager, register at www.lifescholarsacademy.com. Now, what about sports?
Ooh, what about sports? Jeez. I don't really know because I never really had a plan going into this year for sports. I wanted to do swimming again with band, but I don't know, it'd be kind of difficult. My plan was to go into marching season and then do swimming right after that, get back into that game. But right now I'm just doing little online workouts. I don't really know what I can do for when school starts. My plan is to just kind of see what the operation's going to be like tomorrow and then figure out what to do from there, kind of just go along with it.
Now, would you say that this experience have been pretty much the most difficult experience you've had since elementary school, or did you find a more difficult experience in middle school?
I would say like this is probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with, even though it's me just staying at home and doing nothing. It's probably the easiest it gets, but it's kind of just hard because I'm not able to like talk to anybody really that much or anything like that. But I would say for like middle school and elementary school, it's really just the social aspect, especially in like 5th grade. I had a lot of friends in like 4th grade. And then we all got like split up through our class periods because that was kind of new to us. but I wouldn't say that anything's being too rough right now, socially or academically.
And you mentioned that socially, obviously being isolated, that you do not get a chance to hang out with as many friends. But I'm curious to know how strict your parents have been since this whole COVID started. I know some families are pretty strict. They don't allow their kids to have any friends over. But there's other parents who kind of are just, oh, it's fine, go hang out in groups. So where are you guys on that spectrum?
Well, I don't really have too many friends to do things with, but I know for like my sister, she had a couple friends who were seniors this year, and so seniors last year and seniors this year also. But like in the beginning, like in the spring and transition to summer, my mom and dad were being pretty strict about my sister meeting up with people and stuff, especially with all the traveling that people were doing at the time. I would say now they're a little bit less cautious about it. They'll be like, just make sure you run it by us first. Like we'll ask them about it first if we are going to go see someone. Like my sister went on a beach trip like a week after the 4th of July. And that was like a month of my parents and my sister just back and forth, like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I would say that they're not the most strict on it. They're just being cautious.
Now, you mentioned you do not have many friends. Is that by choice, or you just haven't had an opportunity to meet friends?
Well, in like 4th grade, I had some friends, but there was a large like academic gap between everyone. So like some people would be in like PACE math, others would be in like regular math. Some people would be in the better literature class and some would be in the worse one. So it was really just a back and forth thing. Like everybody kind of just got mixed up into their own little area. So for me, that was kind of hard because I wasn't with like anybody that was in that group, especially going into 6th grade. I didn't really have anybody. And then 7th grade, I met a couple people last year. It was just same thing. I just knew some people from activities like swimming, band, some classes. But this year I was really looking forward to making some new friends, meeting a lot more people, especially because like the 2 middle schools merged this year for me. So there's a lot more people to get to know better and stuff. So I would say that it's more of just an unfortunate thing for making friends because it's just been kind of hard. But at the same time, I don't know. Some people don't like other people and some people like other people. I feel like it's just, your friends know you, and like your friends have stuff in common, and that's why you're friends. Like you just like each other for who you are.
I'm curious, how are you staying busy or staying, motivated, having fun during this time when you don't have many friends?
Well, a lot of it's online stuff, especially with like the people I know. We always hang out, even if it's just us in a call, we're just talking at night or whatever. Most of the time it's playing games together. Honestly, I would be so bored if it weren't for video games or anything like that. But I'm also staying busy with school stuff, things I can be prepared to get prepared for school, at least. Other than that, I haven't really done too much. We went on a little trip for the 4th of July and then came back 2 days later. And that was all I've really done since spring break. So it's kind of, I get up at like 9 to 11, somewhere in that time region, and then do a workout, maybe go on a bike ride down to the lake or something, kind of chill there, read a book, maybe, and then come home, eat a late lunch, and then just basically do whatever I feel like doing until I get bored of doing that and then move on to the next thing. And
that's awesome, because it sounds like you are extremely motivated without your parents having to force you to do anything. And it also seems like, you take time to do what you want, even though you don't have a crowd following you. So that's pretty awesome. So where did you develop that?
Going into 6th grade, I wanted to be like my sister because I was a young kid and my sister was like kind of like my big person. Now that's kind of changed, but I kind of wanted to be like her. Like whenever she was in band also in middle school, and she was basically, and whenever we went to like audition, I was like, oh, I want to be in the same band as my sister and do all the same stuff. And I used to wait for her at the bus stop when I was little and stuff. I mean, most of that's kind of changed, but I would say that's kind of where like my motivation started. But now I kind of just do stuff for me. I've kind of learned that like, who cares what other people think? And you also said that if my parents are like motivating that there are things that my parents make me do and try to make me do. I mean, it really comes down to if I enjoy doing something and if it's making me happy. So, I mean, they tried to get me to be an artist as much as I like doing specific types of paint, I guess. They were trying to make me like get really into, I guess art would just be a bad example, but there was just some things that they try to make me be that I don't necessarily want to be. And then there's some things that I just have their motivation and they agree with what I want to do and what I'm doing. So it's kind of just an on and off thing of what I enjoy doing.
And can you give us an example of a time when your parents was trying to force you to do something that you didn't want to do? And what was the outcome?
Well, I can tell you, this is a pretty small one, but sunscreen. I'm one of the guys who doesn't put sunscreen on everywhere he goes. So I know that my mom, especially when we're at like the beach or something, she'd be like, okay, make sure you reapply sunscreen every hour. And I just, it frustrates me. Sunscreen. Oh, it's horrible. I hate it. It takes so much time to put on like all over your body. And is that a good enough example?
Yeah, it's a good one. So what's the outcome? Do you put it on or you don't?
Most of the times I do. I went on a little field trip to Schlitterbahn and I mean, my whole body was fine, but I didn't put sunscreen on like on my shoulders, at least as much as I should have. So I got a really bad burn. Like there was, I'm not going to talk about it because probably gross some people out, but so I'm a little bit more motivated to put on sunscreen nowadays just because I have that experience of being that badly burned. Yeah.
Yeah. Pain is a good teacher sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, perfect, man. Thank you for sharing all that with us. Now, can you share with parents? Is there anything you can share that would help parents understand teenagers more?
One thing I will say is a lot of parents, and I know mine are too, they were like, so yeah, when we were in high school or we were in school, this is how this went. All I can say is that like a lot of things has changed in the last 10 to 50 years, however long it may be, or anything like that. So it's kind of just a good thing. Like nowadays, kids are always on Snapchat and Instagram and stuff. And I would just say, just try to be in the moment with everything that's going on. And it's the same thing with a kid too. Like if you haven't heard of anything that's going on, like in my 6th grade year, this is what happened. Like everybody knew like all these YouTubers and all these like trends and stuff. And I had no idea what was going on. And so I didn't know what people were doing or what was going on. And I finally like learned what all this stuff was. And I felt like more connected to everybody because I was able to have talking points and like be able to have a relationship over another person or another thing that's going on that everybody could share. So yeah, just be more in the moment of what's going on right now, even though most of it's just COVID stuff. But yeah, I would just say be in the moment. I would like to be coached on the transitions from school and just being able to know like what's to come from, especially going into high school, but just high school and above to college and maybe after that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think you bring up a good point. Transitions, especially as it relates to school, can be tough. It can be challenging because there's a lot of unknowns. So my question is, what fears come up for you as you think about high school?
Definitely academics, like GPA, stuff like that, because all of it, like everything you do is affected and affects you in the long run. So yeah, it's a lot of just stress for people like me and just every kid basically in high school, especially when you're expected. My parents have a thing where they say I have to get like all A's and stuff. And so it really just puts a lot of stress on me. I know what I like am told to do, but sometimes I just can't do it. And I just have to accept that I can't do it. Just accept the defeat of not being able to.
I would say it makes perfect sense that you would be concerned because you're leaving middle school where the grades do not count. And now you're in high school and everything counts. So I understand why you would feel that way. Now, you made the comment that some things you can't do. So can you give me an example of one of those things?
I probably should have said some things you can't control. So like one thing might be making friends. That would be a good one. Cause like for some people, it's really hard to make friends because it's hard to relate. Like you have your own interests and everybody's interests are different. And so sometimes it's really hard for people to be able to relate to people and kind of form that connection and be able to just relate and make a connection to be friends with them and have a relationship with them.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. So it sounds like your biggest concerns are, obviously the grades because they count. And then this idea of trying to make friends because it sounds like you're thinking like, okay, this is out of my control. So I don't know if I'm gonna make friends.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So when you think of the grades and you think of making friends, which one is more important for you to be coached on right now?
I'd probably say grades because that's more stressful, especially since I struggled with like math last year and other subjects and stuff. So, and there's always people out there that you can meet and make friends with. So yeah, academics, I guess.
You just left middle school. So many people look at middle school like a practice. So how well did you do in middle school as far as, your parents want you to make straight A's? I know you mentioned math, but overall, like how did you do in that middle school?
Well, I did get like an 88 as my lowest grade, which I'm kind of proud about. Of course, it was in math. I mean, most of the time I did get A's, but that was me like getting 6 hours of sleep, going to sleep at like 1 or 2 in the morning, doing homework and stuff, and going in early to school to get like one-on-one-ish teaching and guidance on what we're learning and stuff like that.
So it sounds like, you definitely know how to make A's because you've been making A's, but you're seeing it as like, hey, I put a lot of attention, a lot of effort to get those A's. And I'm just worried that I'm going to go to high school and I'm not going to have any life because I'm going to be constantly trying to study to make A's.
Yeah.
When you evaluate your progress over the, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, what did you identify as what works for you as far as your success?
Academically?
Yeah. Because I know you mentioned you did some one-on-one with the, help. I'm just curious to know which strategy have you found success with?
Like I said, being able to ask questions is a big thing for me. I ask a lot of questions. They're just a big part of how I'm able to learn, because if I don't understand something, I do better when I'm immediately able to learn that so I can remember it with like the group of other stuff that we were being taught.
So you want to ask questions and, it keeps you engaged, right? You're learning this information in class, you're asking questions, you're engaged. Now, your fear, I remember you mentioning, was that now that we're shifting to more of the homeschool, you will not be able to ask as many questions?
Yeah, that's a big one for me.
Now, have you found out if that's the case or not? Like, will it be like a normal class? You could just raise your hand like you can do in Zoom or Google Classroom? Or are they telling you that, hey, we have a limited time, so you will not be able to ask questions?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be like a live classroom. I don't know for sure, especially like I got my schedule the less than a day before school even started. So we're just slowly getting information, which is okay. I don't really blame the district. They got a lot on their hands right now. But yeah, I'll just have to see what it's like and see how I can try to adapt at least to the situation.
So why don't we look at the worst case scenario? Because obviously if it's like a virtual classroom, then you would be able to ask questions like you normally would. But let's look at the situation if it's not like that at all. If you're not able to ask questions, what is something else you can do so that you can get your questions answered?
Well, I guess look it up, sift through the articles on Google, maybe ask some other people that know what they're doing, know what we're talking about, or even just asking. I know there's like the tutor kind of system. There's like a lot of seniors and stuff that like help out new students and stuff like that. So I could probably see about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like you came up with a few options. You can, ask other students. You can go through the tutoring program, older students. I'm curious, will they allow you, or will it be possible to email your teacher?
I would hope. I probably emailed like 50 of my teachers.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the reason why you need to ask questions, you'll forget. So what could you do so you wouldn't forget?
Well, I know notes are a big thing, knowing notes. And just like kind of memorization. But I know that like just memorizing things like flashcards and stuff for everything is the best thing. So I don't really know. I guess just using acronyms, maybe. I don't know. Just trying to like associate maybe pictures or music with topics and information.
That would definitely help with memorization. You can write notes down as you have the question and then email that question to the teacher. I hope they would have something for you guys where you can reach out to teachers. So I'm curious to know, you made it through middle school and you did really, really well in middle school, but you put a lot of energy towards doing well.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you do not want to put forth the same amount of energy for this year.
Well, I'm happy to put in more energy, but I can just only go for so long, though. That's kind of what I'm worried about. Most of the issues with like my grades and stuff with math got harder and we got into more advanced English and stuff like that. Like all of a sudden it just started like speeding up and then everything started just getting faster and faster. And it was just every single day I would go longer and harder. And I just don't know what's going to happen with that. But I mean, I guess this year I don't really have swimming, which is taking up 3 to 4 hours of my day every day. So I'll have a lot more free time, especially there's like pit and stuff. So I can do my work extra and not have to worry about it as much.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know, what are your feelings whenever you're doing, this work? Like whenever you're like, hey, I got to put 3 hours or 4 hours and I'm only getting 6 hours of sleep. Share with me your emotions that you experienced during that time.
Well, I can tell you I was really tired, getting less sleep than I should have. 2 to 3 hours less sleep than I should have was really difficult, especially since I had to wake up earlier, even though I was staying up later to get even more teaching and stuff. It was also just like sad. I felt kind of sad because I was devoting so much time to it and I couldn't really do anything else. Like it was all I was focusing on. So it was just really hard to keep my mind in a better place because every day was just repetitive school, and then sleep, and then school, sleep, and then just back and forth. So it was just really repetitive and it got really just boring. And
no, I'm glad you shared that because that makes sense to me that hard work is great, right? And then clearly you have that about you. You don't mind the hard work, but it created this pattern where it's like your whole life was just school constantly. And you mentioned that it made you feel sad and it made it almost boring to you.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, you have what it takes to do well because you've done it. And it sounds like you have this system of how you study. So what I would encourage is to see how you become more efficient in your studying. So in other words, it's like your parents have this high standard of you, which is straight A's. I'm certain that you have a high standard of yourself. It sounds like it.
Yeah.
So when you consider the options, giving up is not an option. Doing half of the work doesn't sound to be an option. So essentially, any time where there's this time limit in a sense, then it forces us to become more efficient. So I want to ask you, what is one thing that you can do as it relates to your studying, as it relates to how you prepare for a test or quiz? What is one way to make it more efficient?
The first thing is like music. I find a lot of myself in music, whether it's like music, like singing and stuff, or if it's just like band arrangements and stuff like that. But I find that like relaxes my mind and stuff a lot more. I wear headphones all the time and I'm always listening to music and stuff like that. It just keeps me calm, I guess, and just keeps me focused. Although sometimes I need to like take it away just so I can focus on one thing and have my full attention towards that. Another thing is electronics. I used to keep my laptop in my room when we were doing virtual schooling after like spring break. I had my laptop in my room. And one day I moved it out and I just immediately felt more focused. Like I was getting like everything done like 2 times faster because I didn't have the distraction of getting messages and emails and stuff, at least on my personal, not school one. It was immediate. So I would move my phone and my computer out of the way and then just make sure I was focused on what I was doing with like my full attention and not having little distractions and stuff, like the little notifications and stuff that I would be constantly getting every 5 minutes.
Man, that's awesome. Yes. You just came up with that too. That's awesome. You're right. I mean, it's like your brain just connected to that so quickly, but you came up with 2 ways to become more efficient. So the fact that you came up with it so fast, I'm 100% certain that there are more. If you just give some time to think about it, you will find more ways. And I think that would be a great strategy for you moving forward, especially with the home online school and your freshman year, is just becoming more efficient because you have everything else. I mean, you have the drive, you have the intelligence, and it seems like the only thing that's holding you back from the way you see it is the amount of time spent studying. But if you can find ways to be more efficient, which I know you can, then you may find yourself having more free time.
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel thinking about school next year, knowing that there's a possibility that you may be more efficient, which gives you more time?
I mean, it makes me feel more confident and excited almost, especially with not being able to do that much over this time, not just because of summer, because summer is okay. Because I used to have like activities filled up in my summer, but now I have nothing. So especially with that, I feel more confident and driven to just hop right back into the grind of school.
That's awesome, man. I'm happy for you because I know you're going to crush it. I know it. It's something you mentioned that really stood out to me is that something I always, when I'm life coaching, I always share with teenagers is that success is 80% mental and only 20% mechanical or the strategy. And you mentioned it, you said it. You're like, oh, well, I was distracted. Or, oh, I felt sad. Or I felt this is very difficult. I won't have a teacher that I can talk to. All that is happening in your mind. So as long as you keep your mind in a high mental state of like inspiration, motivation, excitement, you will be able to accomplish and easily make straight A's and find ways to be more efficient if you keep your mind at those higher levels.
Yeah.
Well, perfect, man. Well, thank you so much. I think you're going to do amazing this year. If you give yourself some time to just think and see how you could become a little more efficient. I mean, you came with 2 ideas, but I'm willing to bet there's 3 more. And that will help you continue to maintain a higher level, but also give you free time.
Well, I hope this interview will help in some way with the relationship between you and your team. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much for all of your support. Please review, rate, and subscribe, and share with a friend. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and this is A Teen's Perspective.